rocket launcher!
Hi, and once more welcome back to another Rejected Synths episode. This time around, I've unearthed another little-known German gem. Germany, as you might know, isn't just known for sauerkraut sausages and a tendency to start and, probably best for anyone, lose world wars. We also like ourselves some fine synths. You probably all know at least one or two German synth manufacturers, but there are actually a lot more than most would have guessed. From long-established brands to small outlets to companies vanished a long time ago, Germans pump out at least as many different synths as we do cars. And just like our cars, these synths usually are innovative, high-quality products. Today's synth was developed by a German pioneer of electronic musical instruments, Dr Böhm Orgel, or Dr Böhm Organ, a company founded by German physicist Rainer Böhm, sometime around the early 70s. Böhm started out with electric organs, but surprisingly often also was at the very forefront of technological development, utilizing digital control of parameters as well as digital synthesis and sampling very early on. Of course, very few people expect this type of innovation from a company seemingly specialized in electronic organs. So even today, very few people know some of the very innovative Böhm machines, like the SoundLab, a fully fledged and very portable modular system that even featured a sampler module developed by Dieter Döpfer, the man best known for single-handedly establishing the Eurorack standard. Another thing that clearly made Böhm stand out from the crowd and made it a lot less accessible was the fact that you couldn't just buy a Böhm in a music store up until the late 90s. You had to build them yourself, because Böhm machines were sold as DIY kits, so to own one, you first had to make one. Today's synth is the Böhm Dynamic 4X9 or 4x9 and 4OP FM expander module from 1987. 4OP FM stands for 4-operator frequency modulation, a type of digital synthesis that utilizes 4 frequency generators that can modulate each other in different ways that was very common and popular in the mid to late 80s. The naming here is a very obvious clue, as the 4X9 features 4 independent parts that again have 9 parts or voices. Each of the 4 main parts is multitimbral, so in theory you can have a 4X9 or 4x9 split out 36 voices playing 36 different patches. This wall of FM sound is achieved by the 4X9 being absolutely stuffed to the brim with Yamaha YM2203 ICs. 3 per part, so a total of 12 YM2203 ICs. If you are into 80s arcade or home computer games, chances are that you've tapped your foot to some 2203 tunes, as the chip was used in the Capcom Commando arcade hardware and some MSX home computers. What makes the 4X9 stand out from a large number of 4-operator FM synths of that era isn't just its polyphony and size, it's an absolutely massive unit, weighing in at about 6.5 kilograms, but that it was also optionally equipped with a fully analog assembler and chorus section, both of which I'm happy to have on board with my unit. That it has a lot of individual outputs and seemingly uses very high quality parts, which make the 4X9 sound a lot thicker than that of other FM synths. Before you get to listen to what the 4X9 can do, let's have a look at the unit itself. The front doesn't feature, typical for FM synths, lots of knobs or sliders for direct parameter editing. Instead, you're greeted with a whole array of buttons that are used to edit all the synth's parameters. There are however 4 volume knobs for the 4 parts, 2 of which can also be used to navigate the menus and enter values, and a small 2x16 LC display that has a dedicated contrast knob right next to it. The button array below the display and knobs is used to pick sounds, navigate menus and enter values. There's another button array to the right. The 4 top buttons select the 4 parts, and there are even more buttons to the very right, as well as a slot for the optional sound and memory cards. Some units even have another slot at the back. The back is pretty crowded, as there are a ton of connectors and a massive heatsink. Starting from the left again, there's a very chunky power switch, as well as a rather exotic socket for the power cable, which means that this unit has a built-in power supply. That's probably also what this massive heatsink is for. At the top right side you'll find various outputs, There are extra outputs for the phasing and ensemble effects, single outs for each section, and a stereo summing output. Below the outputs there are 2 separate sets of MIDI inputs and throughs and a single MIDI out port. As you can theoretically have this machine output 36 parts, dual MIDI ins make sense for obvious reasons. There are 2 inputs for foot switches and 1 connector for a pedal controller, as well as a ride protection switch. So let's flip this thing around again for some demo sounds. We'll start this out with some of the preset sounds I've picked while browsing through the 200 presets included into the machine. You can save another 200 of your own sounds as well as more sounds on a memory card, which seems pretty generous for the time this unit was released. Most of the sounds are named after real instruments, and there are a lot of FM staples present, like Doogie Howser E-pianos, E-bells and the like. But there are also a few interesting electronic sounding patches, so here we go. Next, with the 4-part design and 4 volume knobs, creating layered sounds of course isn't only done easily, the 4X9 even has a dedicated mode for that called Total Presets. Let's listen to some layered sounds. I will show you the effect by fading in part by part with the volume knobs. Okay, one more thing for me to do now obviously. Here's a little demo song created on and recorded live from a single 4X9. And once more, this is the end of the video. I hope I was able to showcase the 4X9 in all its FM glory. As creating your own patches can be quite a menu diving and button tapping nightmare, let me just quickly mention that, as the 4X9 speaks SysX, there's a dedicated MIDI controller available for the 4X9 by stereo ping. That should make everything a little more accessible. Also, if you speak SysX yourself, most settings can be manipulated via MIDI SysX, so you can build your own software controller with freeware software like Controller. The 4X9 really is a great alternative for anyone who needs a little 4 OP-FM sound in their lives, and a lot more flexible to use than everyone's favorite cheap FM expander, the Yamaha FP01, that I've also featured some time ago. I managed to snatch this unit up for well below 100 euros. I guess it's such a little known machine, no one else cared to do any bidding on it. So much for the Dr Böhm 4X9. See you soon with another synth.